You know, the most striking truth about reverse gaslighting is that the most effective way to hide a crime is to scream louder than the victim about how much the victim has hurt you. We generally assume that a liar will just, deny the facts. But in these really high-pressure dynamics, your own biological drive for empathy and for justice gets used against you to turn your legitimate grievance into an act of abuse against the controller. So why? Why does the person who actually caused the harm end up being the one you have to apologize to? Well, that's the core paradox of what's called pathological indignation. That moment your own sense of fairness and your fear of being a bully are turned into the mechanism of your own emotional execution. Okay, let's really dig into this because it's the key that unlocks this entire dynamic. This isn't just about a simple lie. Oh no. It's a full-blown performance, it's a calculated strategy, and it's designed to weaponize your best intentions, your desire to be compassionate, your instinct to care for someone who seems to be in distress. The entire goal here is to hijack your natural empathy, making you question not just the facts, but your own reality, and even your right to be upset in the first place. It's a move that just completely flips a straightforward situation of cause and effect right on its head. And yeah, that brings us right back to the central, honestly baffling question. We know what happens, but how is this reality even built? How do you end up apologizing to the person who harmed you? Well, this isn't an accident, it's an architecture. And that's exactly what we're going to decode in this explainer, the step-by-step architecture of how accountability gets so masterfully reframed as abuse. So here's our roadmap, kind of taking us from confusion to clarity. First, we'll look at exactly how your empathy gets hijacked. Then we're going to break down the predictable three-step manipulation they use, and trust me, it's a pattern you'll start seeing everywhere once you know it. We'll get into the psychology of what's called the immunity game, and most importantly, we'll cover how you can reclaim your own evidence and escape what we're calling the cage of performed pain. All right, first up, hijacking your empathy. To really get the paradox, we have to look at the environment where it grows. This isn't about a simple disagreement. It's about an entire emotional landscape that gets re-engineered to cause this really specific, disorienting feeling, a feeling we'll call accusatory vertigo. So the technical term for this is affective appropriation, and that term itself is just incredibly precise. Affective has to do with moods and feelings. Appropriation means taking something without permission. So it is literally the act of someone stealing the language and the emotions of victimhood just to shield themselves from consequences. They take the very distress that they caused you in the first place and they wear it like a costume. And this whole affective appropriation thing is only possible because of what's on this slide, the empathy hijack. I mean, our brains are hardwired to connect. When we see someone in distress, crying, upset, fragile, our first instinct is to soothe them, not to cross-examine them. This dynamic exploits that instinct to its absolute core. Their performance of pain is literally designed to bypass your critical thinking. You stop analyzing the facts of what happened because you're way too busy managing the feelings of the person who created the problem. And the result of this hijack is a state of accusatory vertigo, and it's this very specific, almost physical sensation of dizziness and confusion. You walk into a conversation to address a wrong that was done to you. You have the facts, you have the evidence, a clear timeline. But just minutes later, you find yourself on the defensive, apologizing and feeling like you're the one who's being cruel and unreasonable. It's a complete inversion of reality, and it just leaves you spinning. The end goal of that accusatory vertigo is what this slide shows you right here, a process called identity inversion. Just look at that shift. You start with the spotlight correctly focused on their harmful action. But over time, you're conditioned to move that spotlight. Your attention gets surgically redirected from their behavior to your reaction to it. And suddenly, your anger, your hurt, or even your attempt to seek justice gets framed as the real crime. You're basically led to believe your desire for truth is monstrous. So here's the crucial point. This is a fundamental rewrite of social power. When one person successfully grabs the role of the permanent victim, they automatically cast you as the permanent offender. In that dynamic, they can do no wrong, because any attempt to hold them accountable is just more abuse from you, the supposed offender. You don't just lose the argument, you lose your very standing to even observe reality. Your own conscience becomes a leash. Okay, so now that we understand the environment, let's get into the mechanics. Section 2, the three-step manipulation. This isn't random. It's a specific, repeatable pattern of control, and it's designed to engineer this entire cognitive shift. And this sequence, it's a masterclass in emotional control. It happens in 3 steps. Step 1, the indignant denial. You present the facts, and they react with this shocked disbelief, as if you've said something just unthinkable. How could you think that of me? It's a test, you see. It's designed to make you second-guess yourself immediately. Then comes step 2, the vulnerability pivot. Just when you push back, they just collapse. They pivot from the facts of their behavior to their own supposed fragility. And suddenly, it's about how much you've hurt them. That's the guilt trigger. And finally, step 3, the reconciliation ransom. Your brain craves social harmony, So you apologize just to make it all stop. And that apology becomes their proof that you were the one who was wrong all along. Over time, this repetitive cycle creates a state of ethical paralysis. Your brain gets rewired through some really powerful conditioning. The very act of seeking justice starts to feel like an assault, and the act of giving up, of just dropping the point to avoid their emotional outburst, that gets relabeled as being the bigger person or maturity. You effectively lose the ability to maintain your own perspective because the price of doing so is being cast as the villain. So that's the how, that 3-step cycle. Now for the why. Next up, the immunity game. To break the pattern, we really have to understand the psychological drivers. What are the motivations and flaws that make this whole game work? And really, it all boils down to this contrast. On one side, you've got the controller's goal, total narrative immunity. By owning that victim role, they get a free pass. They are totally immune to consequences because any attempt to hold them accountable is just more abuse. But on the other side is the target's main vulnerability, the fear of being a bully. For so many of us, the idea of being seen as cruel is so terrifying that we will abandon our own safety, our own perception of reality, just to avoid that label. We've been taught to value being kind way more than being safe. And this right here, this is the biological trump card. Pity neutralizes prosecution. When someone triggers your sense of pity, the part of your brain that seeks justice and accountability, it just goes offline. It's an incredibly powerful switch. You cannot hold someone responsible while you are simultaneously feeling sorry for them. The performance of fragility isn't just a tactic. It's a biological key that literally turns off your ability to defend yourself. Okay, so we've decoded the pattern and the psychology behind it. Now for what is absolutely the most important part. Section 4, reclaiming your evidence. How do we move from that spinning vertigo to a grounded sense of sovereignty? So the first tool is a really powerful diagnostic called the Order of Operations Audit. It's a simple, private analysis you do for yourself. You're not accusing anyone, you're just quietly observing a pattern to see if their pain is a genuine state or if it's a strategic defense that only gets pulled out when needed. And this is the central question of the whole audit. Just think about the timing. Is this person generally fragile and distressed in their day-to-day life, or does their overwhelming pain only show up at the exact moment you try to hold them accountable for something? If their tears function primarily as a weapon to shut down a conversation about their behavior, well, that tells you everything you need to know. The timing always reveals the function. Now, once you see the pattern, you can use a strategy called gray rock evidence awareness. The goal here is to become a really boring target for drama. You intentionally stay calm. Most importantly, you refuse to defend your character. The moment you start saying, "But I'm not a bad person," you've already been pulled into their frame, and you've lost. So you do not engage with the drama. You just calmly and repeatedly return to the baseline, observable facts. You make the conversation about one thing. The point isn't my tone, the point is what happened. And ultimately, reclaiming your sovereignty boils down to this really profound realization. You can be a kind, compassionate person and still be right. You can hold a boundary firmly and still be a good person. The two are not mutually exclusive. This entire dynamic forces you into a false choice. Either you're kind or you're right. The truth is you can be both. And that acceptance, that is what interrupts the cycle. So let's bring this all home. Last section, the cage of performed pain. The key lesson here is that the most dangerous cages aren't made of steel. Nope, they're made of someone else's performance of pain, and they're designed specifically to trap your conscience. I want you to let this one sink in. Having a memory is not an act of aggression. Presenting facts is not an attack. Stating what happened is not abuse. Your evidence, your perception, your memory, your truth, it is not an assault, no matter how much someone reacts as if it is. And this is where your power lies. The entire system just collapses the moment you withdraw your consent to be cast as the villain. You can refuse the role. You can realize that you don't have to be the bad guy simply because you remember what happened. Your mind is private territory, and awareness,
That's the fence that keeps these manipulations out. And we'll end on this final, really powerful thought because it reframes the whole dynamic. When you set a boundary and someone reacts with indignation and pain, it's not always because you were cruel. It's often because they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Their hurt isn't a measure of your cruelty. It's a measure of the advantage they just lost. So when in doubt, believe the data, not the drama.